Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of Alaska Public Media and the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest this evening is Bill Compton. Bill was on last time, and if you saw the program, I think you would agree with me. Bill is one of the most knowledgeable people that I know on fuel management and flight planning. And he just got started about a couple of concepts that on how he plans and the importance of airspeed, the importance of center of gravity, fuel flow, and things like that. But I want to pick it up there. So, Bill, welcome back.
Thank you.
One of the things you mentioned that is a key concept is L over D max. Can you talk about that?
Well, L over D max would be the absolute best range angle of attack to fly for a trip. And it's too slow, and it is impractical. So increasing the speed somewhat over LD max will sacrifice some range, but you can initially get a lot of speed addition for very little range loss. And that balance depends on how far the flight's, how much range you need for a specific flight.
Give our audience an idea of the length of some of these flights. How long? I mean, I think you mentioned 17 hours was your longest?
Oh, my first oceanic was Cold Bay to Honolulu, and that was 17 hours and 49 minutes. And that was pretty difficult to sit in the chair and the seat that long. My more recent flights have been down to 14 hours, and if I ever do any more, I think I'll turn up the speed a little bit more.
One of the things that impressed me was how you plan for reserves. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I plan for the computed fuel from starting up the engine to top of climb, to destination, descent, missed approach, going to the alternate, and landing. And whatever that amounts to, I want 110% of that amount of fuel. Plus, I want another 1 hour and 30 minutes of contingency or holding fuel. And that has not been difficult to maintain that level of fuel with my airplane and the trips I make.
So let me see if I can restate that. You plan the entire flight, climb, level off, en route, descent, how much fuel that takes. Then you take 110% of that, right? And that's your baseline, and then you add to that an hour and a half of reserve.
Well, almost. It's fuel to destination plus a missed approach and going to alternate. That's 110%.
Well, I would offer for the people out there in TV land who fly their airplanes down to quite frankly, I think the FAA minimums are not even on target. When you talk about 30 minutes of fuel for really, or 45 minutes, not me, but I'm glad to hear that on really serious flights like that, I think that formula is amazing. Talk a little bit about what happens to your CG when en route when you're burning off fuel.
Well, my fuel tanks are forward on the airplane, and that's a bit of a problem for me. With the cabin tank, the weight is more toward the rear, and my first instinct, flying with that 660 pounds of fuel behind me, is to get that tank empty. But only recently have I realized when I do that, I'm throwing my center of gravity forward, which results in less miles per gallon. And so it's important not only to have center of gravity figured out for your takeoff, your overweight takeoff, which is very important, but also to maintain the same center of gravity for the whole flight, which means a lot of computation of how to sequence your tanks.
Wow. Bill, we've run out of time one more time. Once again, we've got about just a little bit less than a minute. Talk real quickly about I think it was your last flight with Judge Greg Miller, and what happened to you when you approached Seattle area.
Oh, well, we had a great flight from Hilo to Everett Field in Washington, and we were, the weather was low IFR, and we were getting vectored for the ILS at Payne Field, and things just weren't quite right. And I said, Greg, this is no good. Let's go to Bellingham, and we did, and it was a little better there until we got there, and on the ILS at Bellingham, we broke out at 300 feet, and Greg was flying left seat for that leg, and he did a beautiful job of keeping the needles centered and just planning it beautifully on the runway, and it was just a great end to a great trip.
Well, that's an amazing story, and after what, a 14-hour flight or something, 301 or whatever, that's my hat's off to both of you. Bill, I want to get you on again, and I want to talk about something else that I think will be very interesting to our audience, and that is the argument of lean a peak or rich a peak. So if you can make it, I'll get you on next time and talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. Please tune in next time. You'll get more of Bill Compton's sage wisdom on fuel management.